So the last time we talked, you talked with in great detail about two units. One is Desi Crew and the other is Uniform, right? And you did so because I asked you to give us a few examples of the kinds of projects that INT MRP does and the concept of incubation, etc., etc. There is a reason why you must have chosen these two, and if you feel that you should give more examples to give a much broader picture of the range of IIT Madras Research Park activities, then please do so. And why did you choose those two particular companies for the start?
So I chose those two because those two were the earliest two incubators in rural technology and business incubator. And they came, if you remember, I had talked about our work with Enlog to put kiosk in villages, and they were in continuity of that.
Right.
There are several more which came at that time. And so they were among the early ones. Since then, it has evolved a lot. A lot of very, very high quality startups today exist. So there's a very interesting company called Planis. Started by some youngsters who graduated from IIT Madras a few years back, and immediately after graduation, they started this. Essentially, they came up with underwater vehicles. And the vehicles can be navigated and it goes wherever underwater, can be controlled. And what is more important, it has all kind of sensors. It has, of course, camera sitting on it, but it has ultrasonic sensors and all kinds of other sensors. In fact, more and more sensors can be added. And it can go anywhere and take measurements, take signals, take pictures, and send it live up to the station where the data can be analyzed. And as the data is analyzed, different tasks are given to them. So it started with a pure data collection. It is done extremely well. And of course it has evolved into, it can also do small work. Not very large because it doesn't have too much actuators, but a few actuators can be put and it can do a few work.
What do you mean when you say it has done very well? Like, is it being made in thousands? And
it is now. I'll tell you first of all the kind of work and what is done. There are many things that it has done. But one thing that attracted me was they came to me once and say, these railways have large number of bridges. And on the rivers all over the country. Can you help us? Because we can understand what is going on with the bridges. They explained to me that these bridges were constructed maybe 30 years back, 40 years back, maybe 60 years back. Maybe in these bridges, something may have gone wrong. They are underwater structure. They may have developed cracks. And tomorrow, the crack can keep on widening. It may have just developed some early thing. If you detect it, you can possibly correct it. But if you don't detect it, it will result in a collapse. Dams underwater. Again, some structures are there which were put up long back. And they could develop some problem. They said that we can actually go and figure out the problem completely. So I immediately try to figure out what to currently do. Of course, wherever it is shallow and if they can send divers, they will send divers, will go look, they will of course be able to do limited amount, but the divers cannot go very deep and cannot go for long. Then there are some huge machinery. There are 2 or 3 companies in the world who could do this work. Huge machinery would go underwater, take whatever measurements. I actually found out to get one river bridge examined like this will cost several crore rupees and will be almost a year's work or more. And here these people are sort of saying, and they got a little pilot order. And I saw that in 10 lakhs rupees, in 1 week, they could go and completely scan every part of the bridge. And even measure the strength, saw where there was a crack, there was mildew, and they will drill through the mildew and be able to see things. They were able to, in 1 week, create a report. Telling this is the state of each of these bridges, each of the structures underwater. And this structure can result into this problem and all kinds of things. And what's very unfortunate, after even they did that, and the analysis was very complete. They went beyond just capturing the data. They actually analyzed and said what all is likely to happen and possible correction mechanism. It was very unfortunate that the government couldn't get them to do all the bridges, because first thing happened is that they went for a tender. After they liked it, they went for a tender. People quoted, international companies quoted 5 crore, 7 crore, and here these people quoted 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs. And immediately, first thing they would sort of say, well, this is not possible, this company cannot be doing the right thing. Everybody else quoting that level. And they were rejecting. Number two, the company has no track record. It has done one work, but company is not profitable. It's a startup. Why will it be profitable? All this reason that they were not given the order. And it took them several years. This is where, as I told you, there are rules within all government organizations that you have to go for open tender, and open tender you have to do for the lowest bidder. But if the lowest bidder is much, much lower, you cannot justify and accept it. If the company is not profitable for last few years, you cannot give the order. Even though the railways would have saved tons of money, they were still not able to do this. And I tried my best.
This is when?
This was for 3 years back, 3.5 years back. I tried my best to get them to overcome this. I knew everyone, but yet could not. Finally, I think it took them another year or 2 years, and they've even got letters from Finance Ministry saying that for startups, even if it is not profitable, you don't need to really look at that. You don't need to look at their experience beyond a certain point. You can give them a pilot order, and then based on that, you can give them larger orders. Now they are getting some orders. And one of the problem is that they've got orders, they've executed it, ports are fantastic, they take time in getting the payment. So that's another problem. But this is a part of a government sector. But here they kept on doing. They went to dams. And they were able to figure out, for example, in one of the dams, they were able to figure out that there was a spin hole in one of the dams. And there was a small amount of water was leaking. It's a major dam. And if there is a pinhole, that hole is going to become bigger and bigger and bigger. Because every day it is holding water, small water is leaking day after day, and the hole is bigger and bigger and bigger. It's a matter of maybe a few years before there is going to be a burst. They're able to determine that. And that's the time they actually told me it was a 670-year-old construction full of mildew, and they didn't know what to do. So they made something which had a glass, which had a drilling machine on the top. So it drilled through and went there. And then they put a glass cover which went and hit the wall of the thing. And then they could take pictures. And they could do the measurements. So when there was a pinhole, there was an issue of what does one do? It's too deep for divers to go there. So they again came up with a solution. They actually went to one side of it and put a steel frame just to temporarily capture the leak. They attached it. They carried it, fixed it. That was all right, but it won't last very long because after some time that attachment with some kind of a gum or cement, they actually did that. Then from the other side, they actually put a pipe all the way from the top of the water and poured molten cement, which will go in there onto the other side and in a pinhole, it will fill it up. And that molten cement in 10, 12 minutes, it will get solidified. And they did that, they cured it. After a few days of curing, etc., they went to the other side, removed that door and put. This is a company which will make a huge mark in the world. I don't think such kind of technology today exists with more than 2-3 companies, and that also at a much larger scale. Of course, can others come up with something like this? Possibly can, but they have now patents and they are lower cost and they are very agile, and they have a team now, fairly large team of 60-70 people, young engineers, all working. What I found most interesting about them is where the confidence that I was talking about comes into the picture. Because it is not that they know how to solve problems, but they of course examine it, apply their mind, amongst them they brainstorm, they quickly start searching web. That's one of the big weapons that has come today. You are able to figure out from all over something or other. Then you are able to get whatever required, that molten cement, this, that sensor, you are able to get that. You are able to experiment and then build things. It's a lot of system integration job, a lot of finding out, continuous learning, excited, moving on. This is what the company is. And company is going up like this. There's nothing to stop it. So you will see a large number of companies. Another company, I'll tell you. Company called Agnikul. Think, from my memory is not wrong, this is started by alumni of IIT Madras who used to work in ISRO or some space department for several years. 4 or 5 years he got a little bored, saying that same kind of work, slow. He came out and said, we will try to do a startup company. And they all they get practically no pay, they put in a little bit of money. So he had not saved too much money, but he went ahead and did that. And what he is actually making, if you have to make something very large of space grade, there was no easy way of making them because it would require machineries which are very large. It will require machinery which are very large. It will. That's what ISRO was doing it. And here, what they started doing is they actually will use this way of making the material by doing what is it called?
It's a new fabrication.
A new fabrication technique. They will do the complete fabrication. They will get the develop the fab machine. They actually will develop the machine, and they actually will start constructing parts. They will start testing new materials. They will get smaller items of tremendous hardness. They were willing to join them to make it as large as possible. Use all kind of tools that are available anywhere to this is one thing that is good about some of these people. Today there are lots of tools available all over the world, and you are able to get those tools and are able to build things. So that's another thing that they are trying to do.
You know,
I'll tell you about one more company.
Yeah.
That's more of our own.
Yes.
We work in the area of electric vehicles. I probably will talk more about it later. But one of the things that we realized, there are a large number of these e-rickshaws are coming up. almost 1 million per year, growing very rapidly, e-autos. And we actually found that all these things are important. And when we went down to it, for example, they use small motors, 1 kilowatt hour kilowatt, 1.2 kilowatt motors. And every motor and controller is imported from China. We are not even making those motors and controllers. Our company called Motors was actually born in my lab and said in 2 to 3 years, we are very clear, we will make these motors which are going to be better in quality than the imported motors, but meet the price point. Because these motors are inexpensive, cheap. That's the reason easily they are brought in. Quality is not as good. Here, there is a lot of small motors are not a simple thing. New kind of motors, they require a lot of technology. But a bunch of 30 people are now working day in, day night, not with much experience. 1 or 2 senior person. In fact, another person named Kannan only. He is now a professor of practice. He graduated, did his undergraduate at IIT Madras in mechanical engineering in 1986-7 or so. He came up and sort of said, I will do this. Went through fundamentals, learned everything about electromagnetics, the motors, the new kind of motors, controllers, and got a bunch of young people. All these young people are under 25. Most of them are under 25. Fresh graduates. And in about a year's time, transformed it. The learning curve is exponential. They are there all the time. 12 hours is a normal day. 70 hours a week, no sweat. They learn. The same people who would have, and they are not even toppers in tier 2, tier 3 engineering college. They would be 6, 7 pointers. They will do very average. They are least interested. Here you excite them, get them to do things, and suddenly start making those motors. So, if you remember, I had mentioned to you long back that we had recognized long back in 80s that India's biggest strength is the human resources. So these young people, inspired, trained, they can do wonders. Learning is very big. The tools available today, the internet, has really given them the strength. They have to just believe, they have to be inspired. They have to believe they are as good as anyone else in the world. They have to believe what they are doing is very, very important. There has to be a good mentor working with them. And they need to achieve small success periodically, which you get them to do, and they are starting to build. So, I am seeing program after program. This kind of thing is now flourishing. COVID has slightly slowed down a few of this activity, but I am seeing if India wants to win, it has to get every year 25,000 young engineers. Out of 2 million, that is nothing. More, 50,000 new engineers. Inspire them. In 10 years, you can match the best in the world. You need a vision. Funding, yes, but not such great funding. Because soon these things will start producing their own money. This is what the incubation is all about.
At any point of time, right now, let's say, how many young engineers are working here? Young engineers from 20 to 30.
3,000.
3,000. And a good metric for, for its effectiveness or success would be what is the turnover? Not in terms of employee turnover. In terms of how many leave and how many stay on.
So, this is a very interesting question because take for example a number of youngsters. Suppose 500, 600, 700 engineers are, or maybe more, 800 engineers are hired every year. There will be, so there are percentage which you can inspire and motivate and push them. There are some others who only look at this as a stepping stone for the others. I will say about 50% will leave. Anywhere between a year to 3 years, 4 years, rest will stay and are committed to this. 1 to 3 years you will lose 50%, which is fine. They are really not, this place is all about technology. And they are not necessarily the very keen, interested in technology. In their life, their goals are diverse. Nothing wrong with that. They do want to learn a little bit of technology and move forward, but not master technology. If you can get people who can master technology, that's where the difference can be made. In fact, I'll later on tell you, there is a program that RIMA is currently leading. There is a research park and incubation cell together as is taking up a 10x program. Tell you more about it later on. But in one of the sub-program in that, we have titled it Making of a Rancho. So the rancho comes from the 3 Ds. We strongly believe that out of the 2 million engineers who graduate from India every year, most of them from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 engineering colleges. And unfortunately, in tier 2 at least some serious teaching goes on. Tier 3 it gets very little, tier 4 is virtually missing. So they actually get minimal education. And yet, a large percentage of them are very good. Intrinsically very good. If you look at their profile, 80% or 90% of them will come from lower middle or middle class. 25-30% will come from lower class and even from rural areas. They are all hungry to move ahead. That's typical, India is at a stage, they all want to move ahead in life. They have chosen engineering so that they could move ahead. So after engineering, of course, many of them do many things. But if you leave that aside, there is at least 30,000-40,000 of these people, leaving aside the toppers, leaving aside the tier 1 institute, leaving aside the toppers in tier 2 and tier 3 institute, there are at least 30,000-40,000 youngsters, maybe more, who can become absolutely top-class engineers. Technical people. If we can start creating that, will we beat anyone else in the world? So in fact, Research Park and Incubation Cell together is working on taking up a program called 10x, in which one of the programs, as I mentioned, was Making of a Rancho, and RIMA has taken temporary charge on that. And idea is to, can I take 2,000 of these youngsters every year? And can I make 500 ranchos every year? It will take 5 years to make them ranchos. Put them in an environment where they are enthused, motivated, they are pushed, and the best thing comes out of them. It's almost, I kind of feel, there are immense amount of things can come out if you just follow the right approach. And this is what our young people are.
This 10x is utterly fascinating, but In order to do this, you probably need, like right now you're saying there are around 3,000 engineers working in this campus. In order to do this, in order to examine or give 2,000 young engineers an opportunity so that, say, 500 of them sail through as solid engineers, you need an institution like this.
Yes, so
just
this
for
place-
10x.
So this place, well, 10x is a much bigger program in which one of the sub-program is making of a rancho. And this place will do it. Lima will do it. 500 such ranchos every year. India needs them.
Of course.
The rancho definition, for the sake of our 10x program, is that they are in the top 1% in the world in their specific technical area. They are technical people, first of all, and they are in the top 1%. I think it takes almost 10 years to get there. In 5 years, we can create the base. Beyond that, it will happen with most of them. We'll find them the suitable place to go, and that is what we believe we can do. We need to make exceptional engineers. There was a belief that exceptional engineers will come from the toppers at IIT. I'd say yes or no. Some may, but IITs, some of them have gone abroad and have become among the top people, but not in such large quantity as we had thought of. IIT does not produce 100 rancho a year. One IIT. Together, does all IIT produce 100 ranchos a year? Yes, but most of them outside the country. We are talking about Research Park creating 500 ranchos a year. Taking people from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. The tenant group, the group about which work that I talked about, we made a list and we think we have created 50 ranchos who will be among the top 1% of the people in the world. So what we started doing is we interviewed 8 of them so far. 2 hours interview. Going into detail, where did they come from and what change took place? How did this happen? It's a very interesting story. Almost everybody come from a very modest background. Everybody had an urge. They came from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 college. They were not toppers, but they had an urge to do something technical. And once they got the right environment, they flourished. All of them have worked very hard, because without hard work, it doesn't happen. Inspiration played a major role. The teamwork played a major role. An atmosphere where learning can become fun. Learning and fun goes on together was what was required. And somebody pushing them hard. And out emerged ranchos. We believe this is one of the tasks that Research Park will take up.
In fact, I was going to ask you a question eventually. Magnificent as all this is, given the immense scale of India, it is still a drop in the ocean. So I was going to ask you, how can this be scaled up to really make a massive difference to the country? It's probably within reach, but can it be done?
Okay, I think this is a question which we'll have to answer, and the whole 10x program is to some extent about that. But let me tell you a little bit about, go back and tell you a little bit about Research Park. The tenant group itself was doing a lot of innovation. Was almost always trying to take up something which was otherwise considered impossible, both technically and economically. And somehow assembled a group together to achieve those tasks. For example, wireless in local loop. Where we sort of not only said we'll have wireless telephone to replace landline telephone, we also said At that time, the cost of a telephone line was 40,000 rupees. Our telephone will only cost 10,000 rupees. And what did we do? Of course, we started we were 3 or 4 of us, faculty member, 3 of us. We were across department. First of all, they were not from one department. We started working together. That was the starting team. We figured out not just the technology, but economics. We then sort of said, to be able to do this, we'll need a very good team. And where do we get a very good team of experienced industry persons? And since I was older than the other two, Bhaskar and Timothy, I sort of said, let me list down the students whom I have taught and have graduated. And are still in India, working in different places. And I made a list of 8 people. And we decided that if we can get 5 of them to leave their jobs and come and start working with us, we'll start this program. We actually got all 8 of them. I talked about that. This was a very important, these 8 people were very important. They were the industry persons, experienced leaders. The next we did is assembled 60 youngsters from Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4 college. As I told you, that was the third very important. And of course, we also worked out how to get money and how to get this going, and wonders happened. What was built, even if you look back, it was, oh, we could do that. And we did this again and again multiple times. And as we did that, basically in our mind, in my mind, in my colleagues' mind, idea came, where does innovation take place and how does innovation flourish? We thought quite a bit and finally theorized that innovation flourishes when 3 sets of people get together in a formal as well as informal environment. Informal is as important. The 3 sets of people, one of people is faculty. The faculty brings width of knowledge. They have experience in multiple areas and they can very easily pick up idea from one area and bring it to another. So they are all the time thinking outside the box. And they play a very important role in this innovation. The second person who plays extremely important role is an industry person. The industry person knows what a product is. A product which can sell. A product which can be made to work 24/7. Nothing is a product if it doesn't work 24/7. A product which is manufacturable. It's very complex to manufacture, it won't sell. And manufacturable at a price point that the customers can buy. And the product can make money. So, the faculty, the first component, has no understanding of this. It's the experienced industry person who has a decent understanding. Therefore, from idea, from prototype, how do you really take it to a product which succeeds? So the industry person becomes a very important role in this innovation. And the third set of person who plays a very important role is this young person. And this young person is characterized by a simple statement: he or she does not know that it cannot be done. Does not know that it cannot be done. An experienced person will say, cannot be done. Not possible. This person does not know. And therefore, once the faculty and the industry person and this person gets together and come up with an idea, the others may still be skeptic. This young person is not skeptic. and therefore works for 14 hours, day after day. And suddenly new ideas emerge from that working, figuring out what succeeds, what fails, and a new product is done, innovation is done. These three sets of people are very, very important. So, well, we said, then this is what we need to create. We at IIT believed that we had this faculty, which had the width, and across department knew what has to be done. We believed that we have young students, and now this project staff coming from various other colleges. So yeah, attracting young people at IIT were not that difficult. So we had this, and we could inspire them and get them to work. What was missing was this experienced industry persons. So we came up with this idea that what if I can bring the industrial R&D to campus? Can industrial R&D, instead of sitting in their own place, can they come to campus? Now, very soon we realized that campus is not the right place for multiple reasons. Campus does not have space, and if you start cutting trees, there will be a big problem. And number two, the industry is used to a certain kind of infrastructure and environment which is different from IITs. IITs will function in its own manner. It need not necessarily have 24/7 electricity. It doesn't have to have all the places air conditioned. Where its quality of infrastructure is much superior. Industrial R&D needs more. That's the time this concept took place. What if we set up a research park? And adjacent to IIT Madras, as close to IIT as possible. We said within cycling distance. So that faculty and students can move in and out, and these people can also do that. And what if we do this and bring the three sets of people? Of course, they can have formal meeting, but also have their cafeterias and food places and coffee shop, and then sit there, do work, interact informally, and new ideas will emerge. This concept, I remember first time formulated in 1998. And I tried to mention it to a few people. Amongst our group, we felt it was good, but outside there were not too many takers. Professor Muthukrishnan was a deputy director, Professor Natarajan was there, and the director. Muthukrishnan said that, well, some of us are going to go to USA to meet our alumni. And you seem to have this idea, why not come along with us and make a presentation? So I went with the team and we did make a presentation to a number of alumni, 5-6 different places. First presenting what we have done at Wireless and Local Group, and also presenting that this is what we want to do, a concept of a research part. They were generally very supportive and said it's a good idea. But beyond that, it did not move much. It took some time. We kept on persisting with it. Around 2000, we had formulated it, but there were few people interested, but nothing was. Where do we get land? Where do we get money? How do we go about starting it? Around 2004, at MHRD, there was a meeting in which World Bank was there, and for some reason I was asked to go and make a presentation at MHRD, and I did make this presentation about research park we would like to set up. And World Bank people were thrilled with the idea, saying this may be the next step that India should do, and they said they are willing to look at funding this. So we started exploring this. A big obstacle comes, where do we get the land from? Next to IIT, where do we get the land? We tried here and there. I remember then meeting the chief secretary once on a flight. I don't remember his name, probably Vishwanathan or somebody. And I told him that this is what I would like to do. And he somehow felt, he knew about me, he knew about my work in wireless and loop. And I think he was quite excited, saying, sure, we should have this presented somewhere. So at some point of time, I remember, he could call me and say, Chief Minister will be free for a few minutes. Would you like to go and meet her and make this presentation? General Government Chief Minister. I went there and I started making the presentation. That how we can create this research park which can be amongst the best in the world and will attract all kind of talent and even investment. The good part, only time I met her, 3 to 4 minutes, she asked the Chief Secretary, looks like a good idea. Why can't we? What do they want? They say they're looking for a land. So why can't we provide them land? He said that I've done the work, but there is no land nearby. I'm trying to persuade them to go something which is a little beyond Villachari, 3-4 kilometers. I said 3-4 kilometers will kill it. So Janita said that he said nothing nearby. What is going on everywhere? You have the map. What is there? And they had the map, they showed her. And she said that what is going on here? Film city was there. Jhunjhunwala first in her name. There's nothing is going on here. Though it was in her name. Why can't we give? They want a small piece of land. They're not looking at a big piece. Why can't we give it from there? So of course he mentioned that this is cities in your name, Jhunjhunwala. Says, no, nothing goes on. We just need to move on. Give them this land. That's it. 6 minutes, I was out. That's a time concretely things have come to a situation where, on the other hand, there was a soft commitment from World Bank or MHRD to support it. And here we are getting land. So we came back, and that's a conceptual starting of this research park, bringing industry R&D out here so that industry, youngster, and academia, the faculty can work together in a formal, informal environment. And we are lucky that we are just getting it next to IIT. And we are thrilled. It was a different matter that.
You've told all this in the previous interview.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, this entire thing. So I didn't want to interrupt you because it was a nice summary. So if you still want to continue, finish the summary.
I think I will not continue that. So I just want to say that there was a little problem that in the meantime the government changed and there was another chief minister, but fortunately we were able to get
and how the bureaucrats colluded to start a new file.
And now I go to MHRD and MHRD says, you want to do this? The World Bank seems to approve, but why are you 100 crore rupees I wanted? And why do you have to go to World Bank for 100 crores? We will give it.
Well, you told us this, and then the objection later on from the accounts, all that stuff. So, but coming back to what the question I asked you is about scaling. You know, now the next big challenge is that India needs probably 100 such parks.
So,
if I could just add something as a follow-up thing. Do you see the possibility of a similar park emerging along the side?
So I'll tell you about that. So first of all, this park was set up, and this park is now history. This park has scaled up. It is standing on its own feet and has doing very well. In the meantime, the value.
I just want to tell you, you've told us, you've taken us through everything, the financial, how it was paid up, everything has been done in the previous year.
So I'm not going to repeat that. So even while the first building was set up, and immediately people came and interaction started, it was clear to anybody that this is moving towards a huge success. Early but huge success. It is at that time MHRD sort of said, well, and I was making presentations on it in Delhi once in a while, said that why can't it be replicated? So they formed a committee, and I was a part of that committee. Professor Anant was a member of the committee, to sort of say how can it be replicated in other IITs. I said the easiest thing is to replicate it in other IITs. So in fact our committee submitted a report that what is required. The important thing that we emphasize that it has to stand on its own feet and it doesn't have to depend on money from everybody, but startup can be done and all that. And we created that. And all IITs loved it. And all IITs now, the older IITs, the 4 other IITs, have set up a research park. Even the new IITs jumped into and said, we will set up a research park. And they are also in the process of setting up a research park. So today there are 7, 8, 9 such entities around the country. Of course, they are fairly early. They started 10 years later. They took a long time. There is a kind of still a feeling many of them are looking at government funds, which they do not realize that is going to become a very big bottleneck. So that those limitations are there. And yet there are people who know that something like this has to be done. Some places will be more difficult, in a place like Kanpur, where industry is not there, which will easily come there. So, but the working of some amount of scaling is already going on. Even IISc Bangalore is in the process of doing this. So, some other institutes are also doing it. It's not just limited to IIT. So, some way it is being done. Nobody is doing it at this grand scale. Nobody has that yet. But they will all learn from it. They will move on to learn more and more, and they will figure it out that all this has to be done. But so that part will happen. It will take time for them to learn. They will make their own mistakes, just like we made our own mistakes. People don't learn necessarily from others' mistakes. They have to make their own mistakes, and they are figuring it out and will get strengthened. What I think we therefore are very clear that we need to move to the next stage. And we fortunately are in very good state. First, both with our incubation cell and with research park. And we are financially independent. There is not a single government employee works here. There is no money that we get from everywhere. Research park is profitable. Incubation cell is profitable.
Why are these two different?
Incubation is to incubate and nurture startups. They are two different. The two are related. So in some sense, they will be placed at the same place. There is a relationship. I am handling both of them, but there is separate. We both have separate history also, but now they are coming together. Amongst us, we are one of the finest board members. The board members of the Research Park includes M.M. Murugappan, Chris Gopalakrishnan, Mahalingam from TCS, from TVS, Venu Srinivasan, his brother Gopal Srinivasan, and Santanam, which is Santanam from St. Gobain. They are the board members. In Incubation Cell and Rural Technology and Business Incubator, we have Mohan Pai, we have Ramraj, we have Samir Mehta of Mehta Hospitals, we have Medol, Raju Venkatraman. I mentioned all that also.
Shankar Vaidyanathan.
And Shankar and Ramraj and things like that. So one thing that happened, and again, matter of chance, it was not say all these people are coming. It is better to meet them together. And we had our first joint meeting about a year and a half back. And first time full picture of both Research Park and Incubation Cell could be presented, and they were all thrilled. And they said, why not have future meetings also together? Even though they are separate entity and will require separate board meeting, but why not meet together in the same day within an hour of each other and discuss that? And that group started meeting. The second joint meeting was in January of 2020. At that meeting, people looked at 10 years of IIT Madras Research Park, what all it has achieved, incubation cell. It's very clear that nowhere anyone is close. It's one of the key thing in India. But they sort of said, fine, we are happy about that. But what do we do from here onwards? And that's a time the board challenged me. Since the only way, with all of us also guiding you, supporting you, it makes sense, is that if you plan to go 10x from here onwards, which basically means that you have to grow to have 10 times larger impact. The impact that nobody else would even imagine. And unlike this being one of the great parks in India, this park is driving India on many fronts. This is where they conceived of 10x program, and they created a subcommittee, and we started working. As soon as we started, the COVID came, and in last 7 to 8 months, during COVID time, we started trying to figure out what we need to do. Did I talk about that also?
No. 10x we will keep as a separate.
10x!
Yeah.
We have finally come up with a program.
Yeah.
Still not board approved, subcommittee has approved it. We have presented it to director and chairman of IIT Madras, and everybody's kind of do not believe that a program like this can even be conceived.
Tell us about it.
So we'll tell you about it.
Yeah.
The program has 6 important components. Almost each of the components is impossible, and we strongly believe that we have to take impossible goals and make it possible. That's what anyway the research part is. The first component is, if anyone, Kannan, Merin, any alumni of IIT, any student, then faculty of IIT, any industry person located here, or any other scientist in the country, or any other industry person in the country, or youngster in the country, come with a very bright idea and a decent prototype. And say, I've done this, but I want to make this product scale in India and build 1,000 crore rupees industry around it. I have no clue how to make it. Can you help us? And the 10x program's first component is look at that, what that person has done. Do a quick examination whether the product
Market analysis.
is sufficient market. Can it grow to 1,000 crores? Is the product prototype? What stage is it? Can it really become a product in a relatively short time and become 1,000 crore product? The person, the innovator or innovators, who are they? What is their attitude? What kind of persons are they? Are they very not just motivated, but committed, very committed to take it that way, either by themselves or with the help of someone else, or even somebody else more or less leading in the program. We need to figure this out quickly. If the person is very clear that that person has to be the leader, well, that person has to be leader, they succeed or fail. You figure that out, taking all these 3 elements, whether the product can really scale and can become 1,000 crores. Your conclusion may be, yes, product is good, market is good, but the person is weak, yet will not let go and will always lead and will not be easily persuadable. Don't do the program. So as long as you can find a tick, yes in all 3 of them, and you need to do it in a week's time, maybe 8, 9, 10 days time, then it becomes a responsibility of IIT Madras Research Park to now own this person, program, and drive it to 1,000 crore rupees company. And you do it not with one or two products, several products year after year, year after. In 10 years, we should be doing 5 to 10 such products every year. That's a direction the first program is.
In the first program, prototype is an absolute must.
Some prototype. We'll figure out how good the prototype is. It has to be still completed. So it cannot be just an idea. It may be that the prototype is weak. We may point the person out that this is where you can go and get help in getting it to the next stage before you come to our program. Our program is scaled commercialization.
Hardware or software?
Doesn't matter. Okay. That is program number 1. Program number 2 is we are trying now incubating about 50 companies a year. We are saying we like to become 1,000 companies a year and several unicorn as a result. How do you go about doing it? In this ecosystem, we'll probably get 50, we can get 200. We are not going to get much more than that. So we go to other campuses, particularly campuses which doesn't have strong incubation program. I'll tell you, for example, many private colleges are good, but will have no clue. Their students, they will not have any clue how to really get the company, their product and company to succeed. State universities will be another place. By and large, they will not be able to do it on their own. There could be even some of the other smaller universities. Adopt 100 of them. Figure out and get 100 of them. And get 1,000 companies a year. You must recognize that it is not that as if you can just take, you have to have an equal partnership with them. You have to respect this university. If you don't respect the university or that industry, institute, they will not partner with you. Should be very clear from the beginning that you will take up a company which they may have initially identified and you will scale it and help the company grow. And whatever rewards that incubator gets, whatever percentage of the company, will be equally shared between that institute and you. Expenses, all the support and money will be provided by you, not by you. May not, cannot expect a smaller institute to be able to do all things like that. You will utilize whatever resources they have in terms of mentorship and all that, but it's your responsibility. You will take them and take it.
But it's their job to identify students with prototype.
No, they would all the time be identifying. We can even go there. We are not going to take all of them. We'll pick up, figure out, and whoever we can scale, training, providing seed fund, everything will do. Towards this, we have a very interesting issue that yes, 50 companies a year, 40 companies a year, we are barely able to manage. We don't know what is going on. Each company comes up with a complex program. How do you really scale it? So we are in the process of creating a platform and figuring out processes, tracking systems, software to get this company from absolutely startup to a larger and larger stage. And we are doing that, and we are sort of saying we will use that to really provide the best support that anybody can provide. Remember, we are good at first-time incubators, not experienced one. Experienced one, there are many others who will be able to do. These are for young people. They are all children, and we will really handhold them and get them to them. This is a program number 2. Program number 3 that I said is making of a rancho. Get 2,000 people at the end of the 10th years and make at least 500, turn out 500 ranchos a year. What is the process for it? So, as I pointed out, we started by actually talking to these people. They are helping us evolve. How do you select people? How do you excite them? What kind of, you'll employ them. You'll employ them, motivate them, get them to do work in different centers, in startups, in different companies, and handhold them, simultaneously get them registered for masters, excite them on technology, and just do that. And we are saying out of 2,000 people that we bring in every year, at least 25% will become rancho. We're very confident that we can do that.
My worry is they will all leave for America after doing this.
Well, if we create it in such large numbers, it doesn't matter. And from our experience of creating ranchos, people who stay 5 years, 10 years, we have found that yes, a few people leave. Most people stay. In fact, running away from America is already de-glamorized. True. IIT toppers no longer go to America. That used to be so when you were a student, when I was a student. Today they prefer startups. So I think we will create top class. And the quantity in which, if you are going to create 550 of them, let them go. How does it really matter? They will come back also. There are today people coming back also. Program number 4 will take 5 areas, technology area, where we want to be among the top 5 in the world. One will be possibly a fossil-free future. We'll identify 4 other areas. We'll provide all kinds of support, etc. to do it there. Program number 5 is more inward looking. We were saying that 33% of our faculty, we want them to become advisors to companies in research work fairly early on. They will become advisors, they will start working on them. In fact, we are doing it in such a manner that they will get paid for it and they should be able to double their money that they take home today. That's what our intention is. Now, the reason is there are multiple benefits. One, of course, industry academia thing takes place. But, at such scale, when we start doing this, the world will go round. That if you come to IIT Madras, of course, you will get some decent salary and all that. But you have a potential of even doubling your income. So, best faculty are more likely to come to IIT Madras as compared to elsewhere. We really need to take that perspective. We want 15 to 20% people have a startup here, faculty. 15 to 20%. 15% faculty has a startup. Merin has a startup. She probably had no idea, and in a few months, she has now a startup here. We'd like to see that the startup. Program number 3, we would like to see 1,000 youngsters working here, not just Rancho program, in various companies to do part-time masters. IIT get this MS people, masters people from industry. It transforms. They don't have to spend money on scholarship. In fact, they will pay some fees. And this can be huge, huge gain to IIT. The program number 5, the part 4th thing that we'll do is that we would like to see several hundred experienced industry person here becoming some kind of part-time faculty at IIT, adjunct faculty, professor of practice. Really enrich the IIT faculty. This is what we are trying to look at. And the 10x program number 6 will be how to expand the infrastructure from the current 1.2 million to even more. We are limited by space, but we'll figure out ways to work. This 10 years, if we can get there, anywhere close to this,
it will be
it
magnificent.
will be an impact India in a manner that will be unbelievable.
Yes.
Already it is known, and we will get there. Year after year, you will see us moving in that direction. That is our 10x program.
Fabulous. Really fabulous.
And what did you do? Are we talking about empty dreams? How are we going to execute? Immediately, the issue became, how are you going to do it? And I said, well, I need young, experienced persons with a lot of energy who will make this happen. We can create the vision, but finally we need people to make this happen and drive all these programs. So we took a decision a few months back that I like to get 10 to 15 young people. Young means, let's say, 40 years. People with 15 years experience in the industry. Pay them decent, somewhat similar to what they are getting in the industry. Maybe a little less, but somewhat similar. Inspire them by this great vision, this impossible task. Push them into this task. Push them the way we push these youngsters to become a rancho. And while we can't call them rancho, we find some nice name and actually get them good life. And we don't just talk. Once the idea comes, we digest, we float it around, and then we just floated an advertisement. And I have recruited 5 of those people, including Rima. And 1.5 months back, she joined, and I said, your work is to get making of a ranch. And push them. Work with them. They'll make this happen. They'll here and there falter. Doesn't matter. These are not short-term goals. We don't have short-term goals. It's a relatively mid-term, 10 years goal. We will get there. We'll correct ourselves. We'll find the right people, bring in more people, and just with the backing of our board, with the backing of the faculty of IIT, nothing to stop us.
Let me ask you a question, like incubators, various products, or prototype in point number 1 that you said. Do you do a formal market analysis as to whether this is worth getting into? Because when you said that I have to decide within 10 days, even a big industry wouldn't do it well.
So yes, I understand the question. Let me straight away answer. As I told you, if somebody comes with a decent prototype and say, I want it to scale. Within 7 to 10 days, I'm going to take a go, no-go decision. If I find it weak, I will say no. But in 7 to 10 days, I'll try to have a feel, and I'll tell you how we have a feel. After that, I actually get into the program of scaling it up. That's a time I have to do a detailed market analysis. But my framework has changed. Earlier it was for taking a decision whether to go or not go. I've already taken a go decision. After that I do a market analysis. My objective of that market analysis will be how to make this happen. So I'm taking one step further. How am I going to do this? How will I take such quick decisions? How will I move all this? How will these young people like Rima manage to do this? We decided that over time, IIT Madras Research Park and Incubation Cell will have 1,000 mentors. I'll get people who are either highly experienced or retired from industry. retired from government. I will get 1,000 mentors, including 50 IAS, IFS, IPS officers, who are willing to spend between, say, 10 to 20 hours a month. Our alumni network, and not just IIT Madras alumni, all IIT alumni network, all the industrialists, and all the other people who have made it, who have done well, take their help. Identifying such people, getting them on board, and learning to utilize them. Because very often, many of them may advise you in different direction, and it will be a noise. We have to figure out how to really harmonize their advice, So for example, if somebody comes in a particular product, I'm sure amongst these 1,000 I'll have a few people in that industry. They will be able to give me a very quick opinion whether it will work or not. And not one, I'll get multiple opinions, and from there I'll figure it out. So we'll create these 1,000 mentors. Now more if required. Who will help me in each and every program. I may have separate mentors for each program. I need to learn how to leverage all of them. That's the reason I need these youngsters who will have to figure each and everything out. They have to drive it.
Since you have been very deeply involved in the interface between entrepreneurship and technological research, I want to take your comment on an anecdotal observation which I hear repeatedly, that the Indian entrepreneur, for whatever reasons of culture and history, seeks a much higher rate of return than the average American entrepreneur, European entrepreneur, Chinese entrepreneur, is far more risk averse. That is the result why R&D in private industry in India is so poor.
I don't know how to answer your comment, but let me reflect on India, Indian entrepreneurs, Indian youngsters,
and the rate of return they seek,
and
their risk averseness.
So first, there is one trait, and I don't know when it came about. I don't know whether it is long back or more recent. The one thing that worries me about Indian culture today, and I'm not saying necessarily historically, that they consider failure as a black mark. Whereas entrepreneurs by very nature fail, and succeed. If you're not willing to fail, you will not succeed. And therefore, risk taking has to be a very much part of it. Let me reflect a little bit on it. I'll come to the other points first. Risk taking, if you ask me, where is the biggest risk that I know of in history, and how has this fared? I see the Ahimsa movement of Mahatma Gandhi. Who could have thought that we will defeat Britishers with something like this? And as he started practicing, believing in his satyagraha, he failed. He failed again. He failed again. He failed again. And he failed again. And then succeeded. So I look back and sort of say, well, here is at least one example where once you believe in something and you're firm on it, failures won't matter. At least one example, when you are trying to do impossible, something which there was probably no example in the history of humankind that this can succeed, and he succeeded. So maybe it is not firm in your values and beliefs and then going on is not necessarily a historical weakness in India. It may have come more recently. And I would sort of say, yes, it seems to be a more recent trend where the risk-taking has been, question mark has been created. You know, there is one more element on this risk-taking. And I'll give you one example. A youngster walked into my room and say, I want to start a company. I do not know immediately, I don't know the person, I do not know how to evaluate. And I have to evaluate in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whether to even consider the person. Since you talked about those 7, how do you do it in 7 days? You know what is the first thing that I start asking? I start asking them about their family background. Father, mother, brothers, sisters, what they are doing. Figure out what their financial situation is. And the thing that I am trying to figure out, that here is this youngster who is going to graduate with an engineering degree, either from IIT or anywhere else. Does this person have an obligation to immediately get into a job to support the family? If the person has that obligation, the person cannot take risk. Whereas startup is a risk taking. For a year, 2 years, 3 years, you may get no income. If the family members and everybody, she will earn something, bring us steady income, which will take the family to the next stage, pay back the loan, it's just meaningless to expect risk taking. And if I see the person has that obligation, I kind of strongly discourage the person to take up a startup, an entrepreneurship. Say, go work sometime, figure this out, come back. Not today. So, my question, then I come back and so on, say, did this risk-taking ability came along with the poverty? Inability of risk-taking? Did it come because Britishers had left large percentage of our people totally deprived? Except very small section? Did they finish off the risk-taking ability? Everybody just was doing, somehow managing to get their children educated and somehow get them into a steady job. Even this hunger for government jobs, or did all of that come because of this kind of situation? Because I also see that as the family even becomes middle class, I see seeds of risk-taking become higher. I see people coming from upper middle class, of course, have no such obligation. Even middle class, of course, the person may have put their own, that no, I must earn, I must get enough money. But, so you have to look at the value. Is the person really after money? Quick money. This entrepreneurship and quick money doesn't get along together. The other mistake that we have made is hyped up entrepreneurship. Even the country is making that mistake. And I've seen it being made everywhere, including at IIT. We talk about the entrepreneurs in the world. We talk about Bill Gates, how he succeeded. We don't talk about tens of thousands of people like Bill Gates who came, did that, did not succeed. Desh Pandey is an alumni of ours. I was sitting with he and his wife. He has, of course, succeeded big and is a billionaire. And one day I was sitting at their home talking to them, and his wife said that how difficult the life was for 3 to 4 years when she had 2 grown-up children and Desh had decided to get into entrepreneurship role, and therefore this income had dried out. And she had to not only take care of children, take care of home, also work so that she can earn enough to get things going. And we figured out that Desh was working 14 hours a day for years with no success. We never emphasize that 14 hours a day work for years was a requirement, is a foundry, is the starting point of person's success. And then also the person fails and fails. They talk about their failure. We are making a mistake when we create hype. So, in fact, when I go to a university or somebody asks me, what do you do if you want to promote entrepreneurship? My advice is very different. Stage number 1, create hype. Bring people from who have succeeded big. Let them talk. Create that excitement among the youngsters. That's a starting point. Then I say, stage number 2, the incubator will come in. The first task of the incubator will be to just do the opposite. Break that hype. Get the people and see, basically show them the harsh reality. Show them that you are likely to fail. Show them that you are likely to starve. Show them, tell them stories. I tell them story about like Saroni Malhotra, who came from upper middle class family, both parents doctors in AIMS, and came and started working with me. And she didn't eat lunch for weeks. She used to only have small breakfast and a dinner because she didn't have enough money. So, de-hyping is very important. So, my feeling is this failure that you are talking about, failure as success, is a phenomena that has happened in India, partly because of poverty and lack of resources. Many of us come from very limited resources, family background. Risk-taking ability becomes lower at that time. At some other time, risk-taking ability becomes better. Today, as middle class has grown in India, which have a decent income, risk-taking ability can increase. It's up to us to create the excitement and also de-hype the whole thing and point out fail and success. It's our job. This is a part of incubation job. Unfortunately, many incubators do not do it in India. They are all the time creating hype. It's a very big mistake they are making.
I understand what you're saying about a young, new entrepreneur, their risk-taking ability. I understand what you're trying to say. But then suppose we move to the highest level. Suppose we talk about Elon Musk versus Tata. At the highest level, because you know what's happening in those circles also, right? Same thing, risk-taking, and including Chinese, the risk-taking ability of the titans of Indian industry versus the titans of other nationalities, there seems to be something not quite all right. Is it because of government policy, or is it because there is something inherent right now in Indian ecosystem?
So, it's a more difficult question. Of course, it has to do with the history of Indian industry over the last 50 to 70 years, a lot of time their risks have not given them the reward. The government controls, the license Raj, etc. has not given the free spirit really that ability. The fact that if you got the permit, you will win has created a situation that you need to get the permit, you need to get the right tie-up, you have to bring things and stamp it out at whatever price you want. All this has acted against the staking ability. The other thing is, of course, that you don't have as much venture fund in India. The kind of thing that Elon Musk could get. You don't have this great engineering manpower which Silicon Valley has. So, I think we are going through the first stage of entrepreneurship. The whole startup thing started somewhere in 2004-5, and then around 16, 17, 15, 16, it started getting high. Do not forget that I told you of an example where in thin IIT, at IIT Madras, I was told that this education institute is a place to worship Saraswati and not for pursuing Lakshmi.
Yeah.
So, for a long time, we kind of believed that making money is evil or is not a very good thing to do. Because we had a wrong, our movies basically also showed us the same thing. So I think, however, generations are changing. The young startups are coming. Too little a time, 10 years. It will take another 10 years, 20 years before you will see something like this. You need that ranchos in India. You need policies in India which will not go to retrospective tax if you make a big money somewhere. So yes, I think we have a lot of things which are incomplete, partial. I will put it that we are at the startup stage.
You know, given that this has reached a certain scale, and given the fact that India has such a massive public sector, okay, let's take a Chennai example, two Chennai examples itself. So happens. One is the Vande Express train in integral coach factory, right? You must have read about all the controversies around it. Fine. It looks as if India, through maybe 90 to 95% indigenous technology, is capable of making fast trains at the international level, right? And yet there are all kinds of technical and political and economic issues around it, right? The other is, for example, companies like SAIL or BHEL, massive companies, right? Which potentially provide a ready-made area for a research park like this to intervene and solve all their problems, the problems of public sector industry in India. Is there any such? With two examples, the Vande Bharat train and the battle tank on which the Avadi factory has been breaking its head for the last 35-40 years.
I think this is a more difficult question and it gets into all kinds of issues. It's a little more bit, I'll be starting to give my opinion rather than something on which I have a very strong hold. So far, whatever I've talked about, I have done it and I know.
Except that it's a phone call away for you. You call up that guy and say, you have battle tank issues, tell me what it is, IIT Madras will solve it for you.
So there are multiple things.
Yeah.
First of all, can we create technologies which can be used by defense? Can our startup create? Can our industry academia collaborations create? Absolutely no issue.
Exactly.
There is absolutely no issue. There is nothing in these technologies. There are few technologies which we may still be somewhat weak. But you know, a lot of these technologies today are mechanical, robots or mechanical movements, electronics, communication, electronic control, motors. I think all of this, whether it goes into underwater robotics, there is another company which actually excels in sending small robots in a chimney or in pipes to examine the state of things. We are very good. So much of the defense equipment also requires things like that. On the top of it, we are fairly good at AI and other things. So most of these things we can do. Places where we may, I don't have that confidence, and maybe in others in India has that, is when it comes to materials, new chemicals. I don't know how fast we can move. Partly because I don't have that. Even in bio also I think we are seeing that there's enough electronics, enough AI, so we are moving very rapidly. I'm sure we can do this for chemicals and materials also, but I don't have enough experience, and we have a few successes, not as much. But those are the gap areas that we can work. There's a totally different point that you are making, that what should public sector do, what should private sector do?
No, and IIT Madras Research Park, till now you only talked about private sector.
No, IIT Madras Research Park works as much with public sector.
Okay.
So we are working, except very often public sector is not willing to take that kind of risk. I had a very interesting thing. It's a little confidential, but I think in this video I can talk about it. CSIR has a very good young man, Shekhar Mande, as a Director General. He took over, I think, a year and a half back. Somewhere I knew him or he knew me, and asked him to come over. He came. He was interested in creating his own incubation, and he wanted to see the feeling that many of these officers in government, that it is as if the infrastructure has created the magic. The infrastructure certainly adds significantly to the magic, but infrastructure is not the driving point of magic. Shekhar understood that when he came. He saw, he was amazed. He said, what a place you have created. I offered him something. I said, well, whole of CSIR lab, I cannot do anything. But there is a CSIR just next door to us. And you have probably 3 or 4 of your research labs in Chennai. I told him, allow me, give me a piece of land there, similar 6-7 acres. I'll extend this park, because just next to it, I'll build a park at my own expense. Make you an equal partner. I will, however, run it. But you are beneficial. And we'll focus on companies not just from IIT Madras, and it will even be called IIT Madras CSIR Research Park. I like to transform your CSIR labs and get companies incubated, R&D, all the way to commercialization. I can change that. He certainly felt it was something that would be worth it. But he kind of indicated to me something like this, I'll never be able to get it passed through the government. So, there is something, I think, basically, the problem is not individuals, the leadership in many of these places would want to do this. But will the whole system allow them? Will Audit General allow them? Will everybody will look at, oh, is there a narrow interest? Why is the person doing it? Because all these places have become, do you follow rules? If things do not happen, well, too bad, things will not happen. If things happen and you take risk, if you take risk and something goes wrong, you are fully liable. The problem of our public sector is precisely that. The problem is not people, problem is that the basically risk-taking ability is highly, highly discouraged by the government. And incubation, innovation, entrepreneurship, industry-academia collaboration is all about risk-taking.
Just yesterday or day before, I saw a massive list put out, either by ISRO or by DRDO, on transfer of technology. A massive list that all this is open for transfer of technology to private sector, right? Now, on the other hand, here you told me in 10x, a prototype, examining the prototype and then getting into it and taking it to scale.
And the people behind it.
Now here again is a ISRO, if it is an ISRO list, an ISRO IITM Research Park collaboration, they have got the prototype. Can it be scaled up?
I think I went through it.
Yeah, I saw that.
Look.
Yeah.
Technologies nowadays don't last long. You do something 5 years back and think that this is still a technology that's worth it. Learning from there may be important. Second, products and technology without people who have driven and got there doesn't match. ISRO's culture is very different. ISRO puts a spacecraft in space. Putting anything in space costs hundreds of crores of rupees. Therefore, whatever you put has to work 100% perfectly. You cannot afford that it fails. The cost does not matter. If something that cost 1 crore, otherwise, if it costs 10 crore, it's okay. Yeah. But it must not fail. It has a specific objective, correctly, rightly, and is doing that well. If you bring it to the ground and try to sell that, even that 1 crore may be just too much. It may be something that needs to be built and sold at 25 lakhs. That's not the culture of Islam. In India is a market, large market, very large market. It's one of the strengths of India. The two strengths of India is large number of young people, capable people, and number two, a large market. It's a large market, but at the right price point, at an affordable price. At a price much lower than that in the rest of the world. India does sell 30 million vehicles a year. But even our cars are there at 3 lakhs rupees. Can you imagine anywhere else in the world? A car which is $4,000. It starts with 15, 20 elsewhere. So, the television sells in India because the right price point. Air conditioner sells in India because the right price point. If they don't get the right price point, the market is very narrow. The telephone example that I told you, we had 4% telephones when it was 40,000 rupees. So, public sector by and large has not worked in that environment. Government, even though those who sell in the government, military, price is not the driving point. Whereas our market price is the driving point. So we are working in this kind of dilemma. So it requires a leap. You can't just readily use. Can you use some of the techniques developed? Yes. That's what you have to do. Must understand India well. India is a very large market, but at the right price point. You know, what is the fastest growing product market in India? One of the, other than mobile phone. Mobile phone is already grown. What would be the, can you guess and tell me, what would be the biggest?
OTT platform?
Huh?
OTT platform?
OTT platform is certainly growing very rapidly. So, it's there. It was the internet and communications that made that possible. That has already, work has been done. That itself is growing very rapidly again. But the fastest growing product market in India is air conditioner, home air conditioner. So, very, very rapidly. Why? India is a hot and humid country. The minute you can afford it,
First thing you'll buy.
first thing you will buy it. And do you know that the key thing in this air conditioner is a compressor consisting of motor and all that. And every compressor we are importing. Not one compressor we are making in India.
So
Is this a
something
technology in which we cannot excel and do things? Sure we can.
So is the
But
research park on to it?
Motors we have made. Motors, compressor is primarily a motor and a rest. I don't think technology-wise anything is left. It's a question of making a risk and taking a.
And making it at scale so that costs fall probably.
That's not an issue. So, what a point, there's nothing in these technologies.
Yeah.
Huh?
So then
Which
why
cannot
are
be
we
done in
importing
India.
compressors? Why?
You know, by and large, even our science and technology ministry has only been funding, supporting some research which can result into publication, even simple things. Why are we not making air conditioner? Why are we not making our televisions? Why are we, on what area in India mobile phones we are not into? Where have we started looking at what products India need? Other than that gas cylinder that I talked about. Because we did not ask the question, has it been used anywhere else in the world? That's one thing that we do. And the gas stove we do. Very simple technology. The place we have excelled is our idli grinder. We have excelled in India.
Pressure cooker.
Pressure cooker. Specifically, we didn't have to ask the question. Nobody made idli anywhere in the world, and we didn't ask the question why we started eating idlis with others not doing it earlier. We made that. So Indians can do that, and that's what one of the goals of the research park will be, to take this all forward.
Okay, like it's about time to close, so I just want to make one observation to which you can respond. Now, after talking to you for 10 hours, right, I want to go back to the origin of the story. You came back from America, yes, and you went to Bihar, Jharkhand, all those areas, and somewhere in your mind there was an idea, flirting with the idea of joining politics, flirting with the idea. Then your observations, meeting people, etc., and finally deciding no, that's not the path you want to choose, and you chose this path. Curiously though, the central theme of your entire 10 hours is magnificent, relevant, and implementable scientific and technological work, always hitting a roadblock ultimately in something political. All your stories,
I think roadblock are roadblocks if you see them as roadblocks. The objective was to do transformation, and we are party to this transformation. And I think, in my mind, we have played a very important role in the transformation. We are stuck at 7 million telephones, 100 million telephones happened, 1 billion telephones has happened. We started saying that we can take through these telephones to internet, and today internet has happened.
But your dream was through indigenous technology. You see, that is where the roadblock, political roadblock.
I will come back to that.
Yeah.
And with the ATM story, the prices came down drastically.
But
again, all imported, unfortunately.
Well, they are made in India now, but they're with a
license from there.
License from there. Yeah. The international companies are making it. Or the mobile banking has happened. The banking has got transformed into internet banking. I have not talked yet about the solar and electric vehicles, which is the last probably talk that I'm going to do in the next time. That is starting to happen. If you really talk about it, India has been growing from the transformation in India. I'm very positive about transformation in India. Whether it was the noon meal scheme or opening up several thousand private colleges to setting up IT industry in India, or India growing at a rate of 7% per year from 1991 till now. When you grow at 7% real income growth, in 30 years you become 7 times GDP. Real GDP. That makes government also get 7 times the money. That money, part of that money could be utilized to really wipe out poverty. And very significant move has happened in India to wipe out poverty. It has brought many children to school, most children to school, even though there are a lot of weakness in school education, a lot of weakness in college education. I think we will look from that phenomena. We have been part of that phenomena. The technological transformations has taken place. Affordability is recognized. India has been growing. Telecom has happened. Banking has happened. Everything that touched has flourished. Digital has happened. This COVID has made even digital education possible. All that, I look at it differently. I don't look at it political bottlenecks which slowed us down. Well, politics has not transformed. That is, anyway has to be transformed if you want to move further. So that always was there. But yes, we didn't work on politics. Therefore, politics has not transformed. But everything else we touched has got transformed. And I think we are setting up a stage. The whole research park, incubation cell, there has not been any bottleneck. I have not talked about any bottlenecks. In creating hundreds of young companies, getting somewhere, they have faced small bottlenecks. But today it is no longer as strong there. We are already talking about, in my 10x program, I'm not looking at bottlenecks. I'm talking about creating new India. So, I think I would not look at the bottlenecks, successes and failure in a personal manner. Then everything we create has to be destroyed. So, yes, we started with wireless and local loop. That wireless and local loop got destroyed, but something better came up. In fact, in the next meeting, I can also talk about what is the changes we are starting to get into wireless telephony. I can get into which areas we are weak in India. The whole integrated circuits. What the areas where we have, I think We started with 5 to 7% areas we are probably good. Modern technology area. I'm not talking about agriculture and other things. Today we are in 30-40%. Over the next 10 to 20 years, we will get there. We will. Industry is also getting fixed. We are getting better. I think these things will happen. So I look at it from very positive manner. No story about bottlenecks created by various government programs or other things was meant for to talk about failures or talk about that there is something else which stopped us. I think I mentioned one to you. There are many meetings that we got, and many times we are exhausted, tired, and like everything has gone up. We went and slept. Next morning we got up. And we had parked that whatever happens again. We started back to work. The karma yogi that I talked about, our dharma is to do our karma. What will happen will happen. I think this is very strongly there. And this is what we need to do. And at every step we have moved ahead. It really doesn't matter that at times you have got support, at times you have got opposition. All I can say looking back, just like a little while earlier I was telling her that I happened to get married to Bhavani, and looking back I cannot say that I could have ever found a better wife. I can say the same thing, that if I went and got into politics, I would not have gone anywhere. I think we have been able to do major transformation with innovation, entrepreneurship, technology, and somewhere, whether you call it a fate or God, has brought me to the space where I could contribute. And I believe that this is the path ahead. This is the path ahead, and the 10X program is being very well formulated with that in mind. We have to create these ranchos. We can't win without ranchos. We will fall short. We will have to create large amount of entrepreneurship. We want large entrepreneurship success. We have to make industry and academia work together. And in the next meeting, I'll talk about we have to be the leaders in fossil-free technology.
So on that note, I'm very, very excited about the 10X program. I mean, it's absolutely fabulous.